I mean, look at the bodies here. They need to hurry up and move these guys. They need to move the reserves right now in there. Half an hour breakdown I've taken of this end screen. Because of that reason, I personally believe that the winners of this tournament game are Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I just want to say thank you all for the support I've been getting in the last video. It is amazing to see. I'm very happy. It is the best performing video I have so far on my channel, depending on when this one comes out. I have turned my microphone up a little bit. I was a bit hard to hear in the last one. I apologize for that. Anyway, today I have arguably one of the most important battles in the tournament, or at least so far, definitely so far. Not to say that any of the other battles from any other teams haven't been as important anyway. So, just to get straight into this, we have a battle, obviously, between Valkoboy and Jejuniewiem, or I should say Aswood, as they go by in-game, which is Bratanki, team name Bratanki, against the ones and only Kings of Pegau. God, I hate that name. But, so we are actually watching this again from the perspective of Tom and Chris playing as the Kings of Pegau, where once again they have gone for America, and we've got the First French Republic, the precursor to Napoleonic France, although still led by Napoleon, I believe. We do have a Napoleon on the field. Chris again playing as America, his staple. He is born and bred Texan. And we also have Tom once again playing as the First French Republic. It seems like these two have found their favorite factions to play as, and that faction is Imperial. They also have their own niche, which is to definitely bring a lot of units and a lot of militia, as we can see again. But this is a highly requested battle, to the point where I've had to actually shuffle this in my list of priorities. Not just because it's, you know, Tom and Chris or anything like that, because I get the most views from them, but because this is a very interesting battle. I've not seen anything to do with this battle. I don't know anything that happens in this battle other than what's been told to me. All I know is that this is a really good battle, to the point that it is super close. And the thing with this recording right now is this is actually the official adjudication to see who even wins the battle, because we don't know who won. Because how this map is with these LOCs, it's going to be very tough to figure out who it is, because the battle lines ended up being in a way that really either side could have won. However, looking at the screenshots I was supplied, I came up with a very loose idea of what the battle looks like. But the problem with screenshots is, just because you're looking at a screenshot does not mean that you're seeing the whole battle, and that will be a key factor in this, because while one side I was kind of leaning towards LOC-wise from the picture, I actually don't know who wins, because this replay gives much needed context. So the way the LOC works, as usual, we see in this map, we have a 3-pointer up here and a 3-pointer up here, which means that these are going to be some very highly contested points. That just means that up here, my camera can't actually get all the way up here, but up here is a point that's going to be very highly contested, or at least very important for the battlefield, just because it is so powerful point-wise, because my little thing's frozen. I can't actually see where this point is. But there's another 3-pointer, I'm guessing it's this one, or at least somewhere in this direction, maybe this one here, that will probably be one of the most important points to fight over here, just because I actually think this one, which is slightly off the map, which makes it harder to actually do. But these 3-pointers, because they're worth 3 points, it's going to be very interesting. We also have got a 1-pointer up here, and we've got a 1-pointer, which might be this one, or it might be somewhere along here. Like I said, I can't see the camera. I think this is the 3-pointer, and I think this is a 1-point town, just because these yellow houses mean 1 point. When they blow up, the houses disappear, so we just have to remember where they are. We have a 1-pointer over here. We have a 1-pointer back here behind Chris. And we have a 2-pointer here, and we have a 2-pointer here. So the problem is, as well, is I believe this 2-pointer isn't actually talking about Lapua here, which is this 1-point house, the farmhouse. I believe it's actually this river crossing here, just because, I mean, it's quite an important problem. But the thing is, with this map, is you can't really tell what's going on with it, because the 2-pointer's a little bit further away from the town than some of the other ones, because they're kind of just right on top. I believe, personally, I think that this river crossing is the 2-pointer for Lapua, which might be a key factor in how this battle pans out. You would probably argue that it is Lapua itself, this house. But we'll see, because I think it is this. Either way, we also have another 2-pointer here. I can't read the name of that place, but we have a 2-pointer here as well. So this battle is kind of laid out to be that whatever is on this side, the Imperials we are seeing, are kind of the de facto defenders. But the thing is, you go, well, Dan, why would you allow a map like this into the tournament that is very clearly defender-sided? Well, that's because it actually isn't. While these are some very, very strong defensive standpoints, and yes, if you have long-range artillery like these Americans tend to have with 18-pounders here, it seems like this is a really strong defense position. You just hold the river here, or you can just hold the outside of here. But the thing is, it's really hard to hold something like this with 2 armies without compacting yourself. Yes, they can probably reach out to this place, but then they're kind of setting themselves in stone to get attacked. And also, you know, if you pick up this point and you pick up this point, that's 2 points. Then you've got this 3-pointer in the back, that's 5 points. They would have to hold on to this 3-pointer here, or take this 2-pointer. Either way, it is not as defender-sided as it looks. And talk about deployments, one army spawns here, which is right in front of the First French Republic, so you've got to thin out very quickly before the artillery does damage. The second army spawns up here, which means that they kind of get this little mountain hill, and they also get a little bit of another hill here. They get this forest, very strong artillery positions, raised artillery positions over the enemy. This French army kind of has to decide, are they going to get 1v2'd, or at least, you know, 1v1.5, while the other part of the army kind of fights off these Americans? Or does this French army retreat, kind of pointing their backs to the enemy and having to use their cavalry to hold them off while they're getting pummeled by artillery because they spawn in such a small area? Either way, it's not as easy as it looks. As we usually do, let's look over some of the army comps here. So for Chris, Kings of Pegau. Now, actually, we are actually looking at this from Chris's perspective. Again, I was trying to find Tom's perspective, get a little bit of a different look on the battle, but this is the first one I could find, and I'm lazy. So we're just going to be watching it from the American POV. Again, we actually aren't doing this live, so we can't go and grab people from VCs and chat to them. I was also offered to co-cast, but I decided against it for the single reason of I want this to be as unbiased as possible. I want to make sure that this is a battle that is purely down to who won it and not who was playing in it. Because, you know, while it would be great to still have Tom and Chris in the battle just because they've got their POVs and they talk a lot and they've got their teamwork down, if they lose, they lose. And that is how it is. And I've played in a lot of tournaments before where it gets really annoying because you can tell that someone's kind of on the side of someone. I want to make sure this is unbiased as possible, and to do that I'm going to explain every point as to why I think what team wins, what team doesn't win, how the LOCs are kind of looking at the time. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, what I was going to say as well is with LOCs, it isn't how some of the other mods are, and I think I explained this before in my previous video, but how other mods tend to work is if you just have a unit in it or near it, that is your LOC. So in a lot of battles, what you see is you see a big battle going on in the middle, and then towards the end you see little reserve units picking off and going around the flanks and just trying to grab houses so that they can afterwards just go, oh, I won by LOC. That's not how we do it in FCN, and that's also just not how we do it in most of the battles in the server. How we do it is we do it by battle lines. So for example, right now, because this French army is like this, obviously that's going to change. It means that they own all of this behind them, no matter what is in them. Unless, of course, it's a significant force, like if one army, you know, diverts half its army and puts it here and they're not really being contested. But generally it means if there's little pockets of units, little forlorn hopes, it does not mean they control the house, because obviously they don't control the house, we play by common sense. But also, kind of in that, you know, strand, means that places can be uncontested, where, sorry, I should say contested, where there's multiple units here, who owns this, and that's entirely down to context. And that could be, I could look at it from one standpoint and say, oh, well, the French own it, but then I could look at it from the other side, and I actually can't remember what factions are playing this one. I apologize, Bratanki. But, you know, I could say, oh, well, you know, Bratanki hold this house, or the French hold this house. You know, it really doesn't matter. It all comes down to the context and my personal opinion on it, which will be unbiased. But yeah, so a big thing with LOC obviously is the front line, who's actually standing in front of it, who kind of controls the area, but also local superiority. So in a previous episode, which I co-casted with Tom, I went over local superiority a little bit harsher. I believe this was probably going to come out earlier than that video, but how local superiority works is, like I said, common sense. If you have, 10 units in a town here, and the enemy has 2 units in the town here, it's kind of obvious that this side owns it, because, I mean, come on, they've got far more men there. If the battle continued for another second, they would be grabbing it. Let's have a look at the army comps. The Dan the Mantis Special. So right here we have the Americans with some United States Militia Battalion, as always, another United States Militia, another United States Militia, a little core of 3 over here. Then we have the 5th Maryland Militia, some US regulars, US regular, US regular, 4 US regulars here. We have 2 Buck and Ball militia here, Chris's favorite, and also generally all Americans' favorite. Buck and Ball is a shotgun round fired from a rifle, so they have the same range as the enemy. They just fire more balls. Sometimes it can be super effective, sometimes it's terrible. And to kind of make sure that it's a little bit fairer, it's usually militia units, and they are actually capped on the infantry, the regular US regular line infantry units here with Buck and Ball. I believe they can only get 2 plus an elite unit. So militia-wise, they have a capped amount of militia they can bring, where they have these US States militia Buck and Ballers, and they also have Kentucky light infantry Buck and Ballers somewhere over here. But the closer you are to these Buck and Ballers, you will really start to see it. You can actually see it in the gunfire. You can see a spray of bullets firing. Anyway, following on from that, we have the United States 2nd Regulars, 6th Regulars, 4th Regular Warriors. These guys are very good. Some more Buck and Ballers. These guys are actually the line infantry Buck and Ballers, so these guys have far better stats. They're not militia. They don't break easier. And they also don't chain route as easy. Here are the aforementioned Kentucky Militia Light Battalion Buck and Ballers. These are light infantry Buck and Ballers. 210 men, though. Very strong unit. Usually we see Chris cheving them. In the previous battle, he had 4 chevs in these guys, but he's actually gone for less this time. Then we have another US regular Buck and Baller. I believe this is the max amount of Buck and Baller infantry regulars they can have. Then we have the Old Guard Battalion Buck and Ballers. This is one of the 2 American elites. Very high stats, all around amazing, plus the most important part, they have Inspire, so they will be acting like a roaming general, generally kept on the flanks and in reserve, obviously without Rally or the Inspire ability, but these guys will make units happy when they stand next to them. We also have the 25th Regulars, some more 25th Regulars, 2nd Regulars, 6th, 4th, and the Leathernecks, the US Marines. This is the 2nd US elite unit. They can actually only bring 2. So Chris has brought both of them, likely to keep them both on each flank with the general in the middle, as FCN kind of makes you do. It's the best kind of tactic. We have a Ginger in the back, like him chatting to his friend. Do you think we're gonna die, sir? Yes. Yes, you probably are. We also have some more US State Militia, as Chris always tends to bring. We have Major DeQuinn's Free Men of Color. I love this unit. Amazing history behind them. Well, technically terrible history behind them, but interesting battle history behind them. We have some United States regulars here, some more regulars, even more regulars, and another militia Buck and Baller. Honestly, not as much militia as you tend to see Chris bring. He tends to bring a lot more militia than that. So it's nice to see that he's going for a little bit more of a line infantry kind of mandated army. I'm going to look really stupid if he messages me and says that it's the exact same army as last time. We also have some native skirmishers here. These guys only have got 80 range, I believe, so these guys kind of are treated. Actually, no, they might be skirmishers. Either way, these guys are very powerful. They can form light infantry formation. They have 90 men. Don't have the best stats, but they can guerrilla deploy, and also, being native, they have slightly higher melee attack. However, talking about melee attack, how can you talk about melee attack and not talk about the United States Native Warriors? The reason the US don't even have grenadiers in their army is they have these guys. These guys are the best grenadiers probably in the game, maybe rivaled by some of the French ones. The French Empire grenadiers, very strong. Russian grenadiers too. But these guys have crazy high melee stats. They can guerrilla deploy. The only problem with them is they are treated like militia, so they can chain route or shock route very quickly. So if a unit comes in and hits them, there's a good chance they break. Also, die very quickly to a point blank volley, so you need to be very careful with these guys. But if you use them right, boy, do you see them. Now onto the artillery. Chris, probably the reason why he didn't bring as many militia is I think he's got an extra gun than last time. He has got 2 6-pounders over here, probably another one over here. Yep, he has got 4 6-pounders. So 6-pounder, 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 18-pounder, and another 18-pounder. Very powerful artillery corps, especially for a battle as flat as this. However, the artillery drill is going to be crazy. And those 18-pounders, you're going to really feel the effects of them. We have them led by the magnificent Andrew Jackson, this man right here. And we also have 2 US light dragoons, one of them being slightly better than the other. But that is really not a thing you can say with American cavalry, because does it suck? Yes. Big enough that you can very clearly see he's only brought 2 cav, because he's fully aware American cavalry sucks so hard, there's no point in bringing it. Now that we've looked at that, let's look at the French army. As usual, this will be a lot quicker than Chris's little army over here. We have a lot of Sans-Culottes. A lot of Sans-Culottes, even more over here. Shuffled in, there's a little French Republic Chasseur Demi Brigade. 250 men light infantry unit, very strong. Even more Sans-Culottes. We have a Demi Brigade of Grenadiers, 280 men. First French Empire, the way that their manpower actually works is they do have line infantry, but it is worse than other factions. But they have manpower, these Demi Brigades being a combined unit, so they're quite expensive but very strong. We also have some more Sans-Culottes here. The Consular Guard Grenadiers. This is their elite units. This is the precursor to the old guard, so we're going to see them really pulling some punches there. Sans-Culottes here, another Sans-Culottes, another Sans-Culottes. Demi Brigade Grenadiers again. The other elite that the French Empire can bring, sorry, First French Republic can bring, the Consular Guard Chasseurs, a skirmisher elite unit. And even more Sans-Culottes. Wow! So he has brought 2 units of this Chasseur Demi Brigade and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 units of militia. 29 units of 1 Chev Sans-Culottes. Wow, that's going to be a big army, and a massive army made entirely militia. At least last time, Tom did bring some line infantry, even though it was only 4. But this is a heavy manpower-oriented army of militia. Moving on to the artillery, he has brought a lot of artillery again. He's got a 6-inch howitzer. Another howitzer anywhere? No, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 8-pounders. The 4 8-pounders in the last battle doing very well for him, just as the American artillery did. But bringing an extra howitzer, probably where most of his money went, will be entirely in the artillery. We have Napoleon, the Fantastic, leading them again. Where is he? I think this is Napoleon here. Without his special clothing, because he was not remarkable at this time, because it's still the First French Empire. Not First French Republic. I'm jumping ahead of myself here. Then we've got 2 French Republican Hussars and the French Carabiniers. So a very solid heavy cav unit with 2 light cavalry. Once again, the Imperial side really not caring about the cavalry battle. They're going to be using these guys in reserve and not for much else. They do not have the cavalry to really be fighting anybody, but it's going to be interesting knowing that we have a militia army essentially going up against whoever's in front of us. I believe that is a Britain there because of this little box. And we have a Russia back here, I think, from this green box. So that's partly why I'm interested about this battle, because we're going to see some Cossacks turning up somewhere. Russia can bring guerrilla troops, Cossacks, probably somewhere over here, maybe over here. Importantly, I don't think they can get any in here. There might be a tiny crack that can fit some Cossack skirmishers in here. Just see both their armies. That is a very solid spot to put some guerrillas, actually. But as you can see from the enemy, they also have these white boxes because, as I said, the Americans here have these natives who can guerrilla deploy. So I think that's enough yapping now. We're going to fast forward a little bit, and we're going to see what these armies look like. We're going to see where they're thinking of deploying them, because it's going to be interesting to see. I'm quite interested to see Tom's POV of this as well, and Chris's POV of this from the recording. But from what I heard, yes, very close battle. So we're going to see just how this pans out, because I've got a couple of heads up from what goes on in this battle. And let's just say it's going to be a tough one for both sides. It looks like there was some very serious attacks going on across the battlefield. So this is going to be a good one, guys. This is going to be a very good one. So off the bat, we're already seeing Chris has adjusted his 18-pounders to be on this right side. A good choice with the battlefield being so open on this side. And there'll be a lot of fighting over here. Tom not really able to deploy his artillery anywhere across the front line just because he's kind of confined, just like his enemy is. So being trapped in here basically forces him to have his artillery pointed straight up. Maybe on these flanks a little bit. I imagine probably firing one, maybe firing over this way, two up here and one up here. Have a little cone of terror while Chris uses his long-range guns to just destroy anything the Russians have up here. I'm thinking it might be a Imperial hold kind of here along this road into here. Maybe trying to extend up to this three-pointer up here, which is in fact outside of the map range, so we're just going to have to rely on who's standing in front of it. But yeah, I imagine that's going to be the hold. The British probably attacking down this road. I mean, it's a road. You can see exactly where you're going to march up with this one. It's kind of force-fed to both sides that you're going to march down here. Obviously, it's also force-fed the fact that there is a big amount of points here to just immediately batter in and take. The British here going to be winning basically every gunfight they go into just because their men are so good. And to kind of represent the fact that Britain are such a good faction, they're incredibly good at shooting. Probably the best shooting faction. In fact, I'm not going to say probably. I think they are, in fact, the best shooting faction. Incredibly good shooting, incredibly good reloads, pretty solid melee if you decide to choose the Scottish. Whey! I definitely hope there is some Scottish. They have some very solid 9-pound artillery. They also have shrapnel artillery in this version of the mod. But they do not do very well cavalry-wise, which is going to be cool to see going up against a First French Republic who haven't brought much cavalry, and the American army that, let's just imagine that they don't have any cavalry, because they essentially don't. These cavalry are entirely for scouting, maybe protecting a gun in last-ditch circumstances, or maybe trying to snag a gun if they're in the middle of a line engagement and the enemy tries to bring it up for some close quarters canister. So yeah, this Britain is going to be very interesting, especially with the Grenadiers and also the Scottish troops having good melee. Means that they're going to have a good chance in this town, because it's going to be a matter of absolute quality versus horrible quality and amazing quantity, because it's going to be very hard for this British army to outman these French standing in front of them. Speaking of outmanning, the British units have 260 men. That's kind of to represent the fact that they were very professional, very strong, but because they are such good stats and they're also such big units, they have a very small army every time. They tend to not really bring a lot of infantry, but the people they do bring, wow, you really see how effective they're going to be shooting, and also in melee, just all around very solid. Always outmanned though. So it's going to be some very interesting micro to see from this player. I actually can't see the names. I just know that these guys, I know this one is Tom, this one's Chris, because this is the factions they like. But it's going to be very, very good to see how well this British player manages it, especially going up against such superior numbers. And the Russians here, Russians tend to not really have the manpower problem, where they tend to bring the biggest armies in the field. However, it is dwarfed by the fact that they're going up against a America and a France whose entire build is to bring a big army. So it depends. The Russians sometimes do tend to bring a lot of a smaller army if they decide to go heavy and heavy cav, and also bring artillery, because the Russian artillery, don't even get me started on the 10-pound and 20-pound howitzers being incredibly powerful howitzer units, the best howitzer units in the game, as well as being able to bring a grand battery of 6-pounders. They've got 12-pounders, all around incredibly strong artillery. Of course, amazing grenadiers, which again will help with fighting in these towns. They also have 300-man infantry units that are basically just slightly better militia. And, you know, huge manpower walls. So let's see what's going on here. It looks like Cress is putting his native warriors in the town. Probably wise move, because this place is going to be contested. We have a 6-pound foot artillery on this left bank of the river from Cress, immediately deployed, not even limbered. Unlimbered, probably trying to hold this. Personally, I'd probably move this gun a little bit closer, maybe up here, just to guard his flank a bit better. And another gun, you know, probably up here, holding this. Maybe putting it here so it can fire like that, fire like this, and also cover this crossing with canister if he has to. Although there is an argument for putting a gun here, so that if the enemy do get close enough, you can canister over the water, keep them away from outflanking your friend, and also being able to fire a round shot up them if they do end up in a line battle over here. Tom immediately turning his 8-pounders around and facing them backwards. He's going to try and line them up back here. A wise move. Probably not great to have your army as bunched as it is in front of your guns, because these guns are just going to shoot into his back if he tries to do anything, which means the British are probably going to have the advantage here off the bat, because they are pointed forwards, while the enemy have to fall back. So if they have their guns set up off the bat, they're going to do some serious damage, especially for the fact that having such a large army like Tom does, these men are in heavy clumps as he tries to fall back. Oh, Chris actually deciding to move one of his guns. He's actually only keeping one in this left side. The rest of his guns going on this right. He's got 2 6-pounders on the right side and 2 18-pounders immediately unlimbered in the back of the map. These guys are probably going to be able to hit all the way up here just because they are 18 pounds. I believe this river is crossable. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think this river is actually crossable. So he's going to have to keep an eye on that. Both cavalry on this left side. A little dangerous, seeing as there could be some Russian Cossacks in this forest, and he's kind of leaving these guns completely unprotected. We also have another 6-pounder in the middle, probably just going to move up and protect that right flank of the French. Then we have some militia and regulars over here. Never mind. He's got 2 militia over here, 2 militia here. Probably going to send some reserves in here, maybe something to this left. While he has a very strong infantry corps and elite back here. Probably going to keep that in reserve, but we'll see. Looks like he might be the one covering this right. Tom still just very much holding back. It looks like he's just going to try and have a reserve line here to hold his retreat. Let's go a little bit faster. We can start this battle and look at it from there. A little militia corps over here with the old guard buckenballers. So he's got all of his elites in the middle, all of his units kind of holding the center area, shoving them up there. Of course, the second I say that, he moves these guys. Yeah, he's using these for his right flank. These guys kind of spread out for the center. Yes, and he does move some units. He's only got 2 units over here. He's got a regular, and he's got a buckenball militia on this left. Oh, and we have started. Let's actually put this in slow motion. Actually, let's put this in pause. Let's put this in pause immediately, just to assess this. The gun's already ready to fire, but he's not going to be able to hit anything from here. It's 6-pounders. This left flank, heavily undefended, probably because he's going to hope that these French units are going to forward over here, or at least ward off these British immediately. We do have some Russian Cossack skirmishers just going straight into that house. Very classic Cossack moves, guerrilla moves. Tom... Oh, another unit, actually. These Cossack skirmishers getting into this house. This unit is going to die because they're against 2 native warriors. This native warrior, second it gets in contact with them, they're getting torn to shreds. Ooh, and bad news for Tom so far. British have a gun ready. It's not pointing at anything yet, to be fair. They haven't really seen anything yet because the game's only just started. I mean, look at that. They're jumping everywhere because my render distance isn't great. But these 9-pounders, very strong units. And look at how many rows of units there are for Tom just because of the deployment. If that gun's able to fire over here, it's going to hit 1 rank of men, 2 rank of men, 3 rank of men, 4, 5. And then maybe hit an artillery piece, not even counting the cavalry in here. British army, he's got a little bit on his left from what we can see. Riflemen. another 9-pounder, another rifleman, and a big chunk of British foot battalion with a light infantry corps to their right. Cameron Highlanders, a very solid melee Scottish unit. Oh, hey, play the bagpipes for the Haggis Cup. And we've got the Kiddy Scots Guard, the best melee unit in the British Army. Sadly, they don't have their kilts on. They should. But these guys are the elite melee troops of the British Army, famously for fighting in Waterloo and Hougoumont, and being a very solid elite unit just in general. I had to pause, my flatmate came in. I apologize, dear viewers. I'm going to edit all of that out. Anyway, I was saying about the Cossack skirmishers.
This building has fallen to the enemy!
But yeah, no, the British almost taking a shot to the face. Tom smartly booting a 8-pounder in. Oh boy. Actually, no one in this unit dying, but a couple 8 poor souls dying instantly. Natives already going into the house. These poor Cossacks who are getting torn to shreds by these natives. Wow, they don't even have bayonets! They don't even bayonets! Oh, we're just gonna let those poor men die. Ooh, counter shots from the French. Killing 20 men. They've already done more damage than the British have, artillery-wise. And, oh, actually, I might be wrong in that one. Yeah, I think I am. But, Tom immediately moving to match his opponent.
We have taken the buildings
up. He is
up!
Moving most of his army away from this actual 2-pointer here. And also the house up here. Fully pulling most of his army back over here. Looks like he's going to be content enough to let Chris, playing as the Americans, take over the entire right side of this battlefield. Britain now unlimbering their 9-pounder. It took them a second to do it. We do have a little bit of a fight going on over here. Well, it was, do you know what? I'm proud to have been corrected here. It was actually quite a smart move for Chris.
Our men are running, sir!
To put his light cavalry over here, because it means he can actually survive this cavalry attack. Admittedly, he might not even catch these guys. Meaning that he has just lost a cavalry unit. Oh no, he is going to catch them. Looks like the Russians slowed down. Caught by the stragglers of the previously annihilated unit. Oh dear. Well, if there was ever any more possible proof that the American cavalry is terrible, that is it. Killing 12 men? No. 22 men in this Cossack Lancer unit is very tired. Being swept up in these French carabiners. And, it's good night for those Russian Cossack Lancers. However, those Cossack Lancers not only killed both of the... Oh, sorry, I didn't even get to see this. The British cavalry light train charge into the guns. Let me put slow motion on here while I was explaining stuff. Cossack Lancers dying, but both of the American cavalry is now completely dead. That's the strength of the Cossacks. 6-pounders moving up. These 18-pounders still very open to fire, but what we've got here is a great British move. Great British move. So they've got their skirmishers up. They have expanded their right flank, so they've got these light infantry. A couple more light dragoons coming out of the woodwork. They've got their 9-pounder here firing. They've created a gap in their line so that they can counter-battery this gun more effectively. This gun off of their guns now because of this cavalry charge, and also unlimbered, which means that if they fall back any further than this, they're probably just giving up their gun. Other cavalry unit coming in to sweep around the flank, try and catch this 8-pounder off. But by that cavalry charge, it meant these sans-culottes, trapped in a square, are now facing off against 2 units of British foot that are going to turn around and blow a hole through these men. We're seeing a 6-pound horse artillery being ran to the front line to just get as much artillery support as possible. Russian Jaegers stake lining backwards. Guys, I think you made a little bit of a mistake there. Attempting to kill their own guns, I see. Looks like this 8-pounder is destined for death.
The entire unit is dead,
light cavalry unit. Unless they're able to maybe get a canister off. Oh. Nope. that cannon is very bad. So it took 2 units of light cavalry for the British. But in the end, they get the gun. And looks like Tom's right flank is in danger. These Sankula getting torn to shreds by the British foot, who are now outflanking them as well with reserves. Very efficient. The Sankula unit getting absolutely hammered by the British artillery. Frontline already taking a lot of casualties just from that artillery advantage. All the French guns going to this left side smartly. There's not a lot they can do. I mean, 50 men dead in that unit, 70 in this one, just because they got shot to pieces by the British, and it's already a horrible start for this Imperial side. Here we go. That's why they set up sticks backwards so that the cavalry can come round. I apologize to the Russian player. I judged you too harshly. This is actually a very cool artillery position with stakes on either side to protect the guns. So the cavalry can only really come in from 2 sides, but we've got 2 20-pound unicorns and 2 10-pound unicorns. If there is any target in the planet to aim for, that is the target. If I was Chris, it would be every gun on that man. Only problem with having an artillery position like this, it is on flatland. It's not protected by anything. It's not protected by a hill. And also, because they're so clumped up, artillery can very easily hit all of these guns at the same time. And also, a cavalry attack, if it does come on the sides, puts these guns in danger. What are these guys firing at? They are firing at the French horde. And by God, if there is anywhere I would not like to be in the world, it is in this French army, because they are suffering off the bat. Immediately, Bratanki here, playing as the British and the Russians, showing just how good they are, immediately able to force the enemy back. And with 1 horse artillery move as well, they're able to get some close range canister, although Tom was able to move away quick enough for that. But the French army no longer in force holding this town. In fact, mainly on the other side of this riverbank with all of their artillery. They've been forced back. Luckily, they haven't lost any artillery yet, other than the 8-pounder over here, which was killed by 2 units of cavalry. Technically only 1, because only 1 cavalry died in the attack. British skirmishers coming up, riflemen already picking apart the Sankula. I mean, you can see the bodies strewn out here. Looks like a artillery shot hitting around here. I mean, you can already see the amount of dead. Almost entirely French so far. Chris moving his men. Big reserve corps coming over here. Try and take this right side. He's already got some regulars pushing across to claim this house. Probably want to keep his men nice and thin so that he doesn't get torn apart by this Russian grand battery of unicorns. Horse artillery running all the way over here. Artillery shot missing the cannons, but in fact hitting the reserves over here. And it looks like they've finally been spotted by the unicorns. Oof, you would not want to be this man right here. These poor regulars. Poor regulars getting blasted, even though they're behind the hill, still nearly getting hit. This gun is being fired at desperately by the American 18-pounders the one time they're outgunned, and unfortunately it's all howitzers. Although this gun is in danger. There we go, we saw the moment. We saw the moment it was targeted. Can it get behind the... Might be able to get behind the town. Just barely missing. Instead, getting some Russian units, so we're seeing that there is a little bit of a Russian presence on this left side. We've already got a unit popping out of the woodwork. Press moving some men up into the center, and it looks like the first gunfight is engaging over here. Let's look at the casualties. So far we have 45 deaths in this unit, 1 in this one, 10 in this one. And for the British side we have 1 man, 3 man, another 1 man, with a 9-pounder coming in for canister. That's just going to shove the French off. Tom's still not unlimbering his guns. He must still be trying to get them in a good position. Wow. A very interesting start to the battle. Not going in the way of the Imperial side, because just To actually put this in slow motion, I'll explain myself. Bratanki here is another team that was very active in practicing for this. I don't think they played much FCN, if any FCN before, but also being against some very tough enemies. Chris and Tom obviously having hundreds of hours now in the mod. Been playing it for over a year, especially against me, with me critiquing everything they do. But these guys have had about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks of practice, where they were going off into their own VCs, playing together as their team, as they were a team that had organized beforehand. They were ready for the team pick. They actually met each other randomly. I'm not sure. I don't want to say anything in case I'm wrong. But these guys have been a team for essentially the entirety of the pre-rounds for the tournament, and they turned up to essentially every practice match as well, being available to fighting a lot of people, and you can definitely see that that's paid off, because without taking essentially any casualties, they have shoved themselves up the center. They have pushed the French across the river line already, and they've actually caused a bit of a problem, because now both the French and Americans are behind a river line, which, you know, it might seem like, oh, well, they're easily defending then. Well, they might be defending, but they only really hold these points. They don't hold the 3-point over here. The Russian holds this point here, which means that they're going to have to attack over the river. And actually, these guys are not the defenders anymore. They're, in fact, the attackers. So, already the coalition here causing problems for the Imperial side. Let's get back onto regular play without slow motion. These poor Sankula getting eaten alive by the British. You can see the absolute quality over here. With 2 units of British shooting 1 unit of militia and eating it alive. I mean, look at this. Almost lost 100 men. And they have killed, what is that, 8? 7 men? Oh, actually, I think that's 9 men. Yeah, they have killed 9 men and lost 75. Close range canister now being fired. Tom preparing a Sankula to try and maybe charge it, but as he moves, the British next to them appear. An even larger British line, probably using this house as a bit of an anchor. To put this line like this. I mean, it's really not a question of gunfight. It's going to be down to whether or not the French guns can do anything. And yeah, immediately it's been counteracted by the fact that the British have got their Scots Guard behind the gun and light dragoons. This unit, as essentially all it's done is moved forwards, got a bit tired, got canistered in the back, and also volleyed by the British crew. Yeah, and Tom is taking that as his cue to leave, as he is taking overshot as well with these units. I think Tom, realizing now that it was probably not the best idea to bring so much militia, because these militia are getting shredded. Oh wow, great shot from the French artillery. Killing 6 men in the battery already and killing a limber. This gun probably not going to move ever again, because they would be losing a gun if they did. I mean, it's a very strong defensive position, but the problem is you can defend this side of the river as much as you want. If you're not holding the town, you aren't winning. Looks like we've got some Russian counter battery already, not killing anybody other than a couple of regulars. Looks like the American army is essentially invisible to the enemy. And we've got another gunfight going off over here. See, the British are going to have to be very careful, because while they do have the absolute superiority in gunfight, I mean, look at this. It's not even a question of who's winning this. It's genuinely, it's incredible how much damage they're doing in this gunfight. Because, I mean, you couldn't have chosen a worse matchup. It is. Right now we're looking at Hypernova versus Coughing Baby. These guys are getting annihilated in this gunfight, but the thing is, it doesn't matter, because they've got such a strong, effective shooting army that, yeah, they can chew up the numbers, but the whole time, if they're getting hit with artillery, unfortunately they're not actually getting hit yet, But if they're getting hit with artillery and losing their men through the artillery, then it doesn't matter, because they can just blast them with artillery to get rid of them. Which seems like the tactic they're kind of going for right now with this 4-gun battery. I think the tactic for the French here is probably going to be entirely around the idea of let's just use our manpower to hold them while we pummel them with the artillery. So I mean, look at this. These guys losing 100 men each, essentially, and killing. That is a good shot from the artillery. Kind of proving my point immediately. Yeah, in the gunfight though, they're killing very little men. These two units are the ones that have been hit with artillery, which is why they've lost actual units. Artillery immediately being pointed at this 9-pounder. They want that very dead. I mean, it's a good chance they do it. They might hit their own men in the process, but that's a sacrifice they're willing to make, because these guys are backwater militia. But this little gap, you can almost tell an experienced player when you're watching them. Because it's stuff like this, seeing a little gap in their line like this, where you might think, oh, well, you know, they're not got these units here, you know, they could have a full line. Oh, hitting their own men, actually hitting the artillery with it. But you can tell, yeah, because they've got this little gap, it means they can fire straight down it with whatever they want. Unicorn shot, landing very unfortunately for the French, right in the middle of them. This gun's still not dead. Almost unlimbered, which means that this is going to be harder to dislodge now. And it is in such a powerful position, which is why the French are wanting to get rid of it so quickly, because I mean, look at this. Not only does it fight all of this with counter battery, but it also canisters this, enflate this, it can pressure the town with canister here. Essentially mean that it's impossible to push. Yeah, it's canistering along the front line here. I mean, thinking casualty wise, just looking at it, I reckon it's probably looking at maybe 200 to 300 men dead so far in this French side, because they've just lost very small amounts in each unit. The fact that they've got 250 men not really mattering, because they're getting grinded down to the point that if there's actually an engagement, they don't have that manpower advantage, and they're just terrible militia at that point. But yeah, no, I mean, probably 200 to 300 dead on this French side, especially with these unicorns going off, probably about kill a lot more. Actually, I'm going to have to retract my statement. I reckon it's closer to 500 dead on this French side versus maybe 100 if we're being generous on the British side. I mean, it's really looking painful for the French. They are taking some serious casualties. However, Press here, as the Americans giving it back. Russians getting hit pretty hard there. They have got these skirmishers to try and snipe these guys, but he hasn't realized they're slightly behind a hill, so only one man has died from that. You're probably going to run out of ammo before you start getting actual casualties with that skirmisher unit. This poor Sankula being shoehorned into this defensive position and losing 120 men or thereabouts just from canister and gunfire. Killing 20 men back, but I mean, come on, is that really... It's not really a good gunfight choice there. I mean, the problem for Tom is he's gone for a... he's got... The one thing that really beats him here is highly elite units. And unfortunately for him, he has been put against a Britain. I mean, realistically, the dream matchup for this battle would be Americans versus Britain, because at least America does have some ability to stand and shoot, especially with those buckenballers. I mean, the buckenballers in this town would be incredible. Maybe some of the longer range guns over here holding the flank, but the dream matchup here would be America versus Britain, and then the First French Empire versus Russia, because then it's just who can out-micro each other with these Russians and the French, because it's just a manpower versus manpower brawl over here. However, over here would be a little bit more of a actual who can outshoot each other. And it's really not becoming a question anymore. They are limbering up this gun to try and move it a little bit closer. Probably another opportunity for the French to take it out, which they are going to be praying works. But right now it is not looking close for the French. I mean, if it continues how it's looking right now, it's going to be a whitewash for the British force. The Americans, it has been, what, about 28 minutes, and we're seeing very little actually happening. Press finally moving a couple of militia units this right side into the forest. he has got his army pretty heavily geared to kind of punch forwards, maybe over this lip, try and get through the forest here. Artillery, obviously, doing its damage, because it is 18-pounders. They've already blown up this house. We need to remember this house was here. But Tom just continually is throwing his manpower in, and it is not working so far. Gun has limbered. I think he's already shuffled a little bit further forwards, and they're actually using their guns how you really should be. This is how you're seeing very good play from artillery. The person who always wins battles generally is the person who moves their guns the most. By having a gun like this, it means that you completely negate the fact that your enemy is defending in this terrain. Because realistically, this would be a nightmare to push into, especially with the manpower we're seeing here from the French. But if you just shove a cannon up close, that canister is so scary and so powerful that most people will just actually fall back. So it's good to think sometimes of an artillery piece as not just an artillery piece, but also as like a little wall here. If you drew a line, a lot of stuff going on in the background as I'm talking about this, but think of it as a little wall here of like, if you draw a line here, this is the no-go zone. You don't want to be anywhere in this radius, and right now there's a pretty decent amount of units in that radius. This cannon still not losing a single man, but killing it. Potentially about 100 or so now. This poor cannon here still getting shot up, losing half of its manpower. That's poor.
Our men are running,
unit they actually broke earlier. They've been wedged back in against these British. They have killed a little bit. You see, this is the thing now for France. Ooh, a little bit of a bigger push now from the British. They are still canistering this front line, losing a lot of men from that canister. But I mean, this is the thing with the British is, because Britain has such limited amount of manpower, yes, the units are great, the units are big, because they have such limited manpower, and I mean, look at how many units the French have. The French can just keep shuffling units in, and genuinely it will get to the point later in the battle where these frontline units will not only be torn down enough in manpower that they're not really useful anymore, but they will also get torn down in morale because they're starting to lose their men, and they would also run out of ammo. And also, just as a point, generally, moving your units closer to a faction that prioritizes manpower isn't a great idea, because accuracy really matters the further away you are from your enemy. If you're right in the outside range of your enemy, actually I'm seeing something's been hit over here. Looks like some of the limbers are gone, some of the men are gone. This is a high priority target for the Imperial side. But back to what I was saying. When you move, like the further you are from your enemy is where the accuracy really matters. Which is why something like the Russian steamroller works so effectively. If you're up close, if you're a foot away from your enemy, it doesn't matter if you're terrible at using a gun, you're probably going to hit them. Which is why the manpower matters. And that's why when you're playing as Russia, or a faction like Russia, basically Tom is playing France as Russia. The closer you are, if you're here, that's where the manpower comes in, because 250 men firing at point blank range, they're going to probably hit most of the men they have. And yes, they're going to get outshot slowly by these British, but they're going to get outmanned. That's how the Russian steamroller works, is you just throw men forwards, point blank volley. When they die, you move in the next reserves. It's kind of how Tom's playing it, and it is working. I think the British have realised that they are taking a little bit too many casualties. Yes, they are killing a shit ton of these French. But at what cost? They're losing a lot of men. Oh! Howitzer. So close to claiming a kill that would be influential in how this battle's going to go. But yeah, no, I don't think that I don't think the British have very many reserves. I mean, I think this is not the majority of their actual army. I reckon they have maybe 5, 6, 7 units in reserve or so, not counting the elites. I mean, for the damage they've taken so far, yes, they have caused so much. Oh, wow. Oh my god. Yes, they've caused some damage to the French. I mean, a lot of damage to the French if you count the Russians. But they have taken a lot in return. Not so much this right flank, but this frontal assault has taken a decent amount of casualties, enough to be a little bit more cautious in the future. But like I said, high priority target back here. Incredibly high priority target. We just saw that shot up here. They've still not moved these units from outside of each other, but these units, 150 men in this have died, probably from other means as well. But at least as far as we know from that shot, these guys are now in 103 men and 188. I mean, look at the hole there left with the bodies. They've dug their own grave for them with that shot. Wow, you just see how effective those Russian unicorns are. Yes, they're incredibly expensive, but we just saw why. Looks like there might have been a little bit of a cavalry move over here. A couple of dead cav and a unit in square. It looks like that right here, the Cossack Lancers, who are sneaking past. But Crest Sings, he's played against me so much. He's got a rear guard. He always leaves something to protect the back of his men. Whoa. This is the problem for the British. This is the problem. Yes, they can outshoot anything they go up against, but right now they're outgunned. Tom and Crest relying almost entirely on the fact that they have so much artillery superiority over their enemy. Not counting the fact that the enemy have unicorns, but they have so much counter battery ability against their enemy with their round shot that this is what they want to do. They want to sit back, they want to let the enemy come to them, because that's where they're going to do the most casualties. But also, it means that if the enemy backs off like this, they're just going to get torn apart by the artillery. I mean, the artillery now, looking at the angle of it, it's just going to hit like this and slice through the enemy units. 43-man Sankela back here. These guys have been in the wars. 100%. Howitzers. Ooh, good howitzer shot. Not killing anybody, unfortunately, for the French. That does. Wow. One man dying, one man getting knocked over. Surprising. There is a nice little crossfire here by the Americans, but they're also shooting up this. I mean, this is a priority target for the guns. If the guns are able to do enough damage here, which they really are, I mean, you can see the majority of the casualties for the British have been entirely artillery. Although I think, even though they've done so much artillery damage, I mean, if you factor in the fact that these unicorns have been firing, I mean, I think 2 of the shots so far that the unicorns have landed have probably equalized the amount of damage they've done, the French have done to the British with their artillery. But it doesn't matter for the French, because, I mean, look at how many men they have. I mean, oh, what a shame they just killed 25 of their own men. They've only got 400 more to replace them. But those are casualties they can't afford. I mean, look at that. That shot. Serious damage there. Consular Guard. Remember, this guy is an elite unit. They want to keep these guys alive for the Inspire at the very least. These guys still shoved in together. That's a good target there for the artillery, I think. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Russia. Okay, looks like we do finally have a little bit of a Russian assault planned. We have seen almost nothing of the Americans and Russians at all, other than artillery. It's quite funny thinking about that. The Russians and Americans have focused so heavily on their artillery that they actually haven't fought yet, despite the battle being almost done on the clock. Half the battle over. Looks like potentially the Cossacks being squared off by the second regulars, who are in a really awesome square. I mean, look at that. That's so cool. Second holding every angle of this river with a square. Sir, what's that big red line? Give him a British accent, as they should be. This is the problem, though. The thing is, these teams counter each other almost to the point of hilarity, where the French plan is to sit back and use their artillery against the British. But the British plan is to sit back and let the Russians shoot the French. So it's really a question of who can shoot the enemy with their artillery more. And to be honest, it looks like the Russians are kind of taking the cake for that. However, with unicorns, incredibly unreliable guns. Yes, they do a lot of damage when they hit, But sometimes they really struggle to hit. Oh, here we go. Finally, the first real engagement of the Americans. We have American militia. That is American militia holding off the Russians. I mean, look at this. Very cool assault. Russians marching up. Now deciding that that is a bad idea. Wise. These guys losing a decent amount of men, probably to the artillery. This horse artillery still not dying. Much to the dismay of the whole Imperial faction. Men still getting chunks ripped out of them by giant steel balls. A small mistake here from the Russian player, I've got to say. Skirmishers firing into the backs of their own men. As these guys are losing a lot of men. Once these units get reduced to about 230 men, that's when they kind of lose their whole advantage. The whole point of Russia is just manpower war. But when you don't have the manpower,
our general is under attack.
You're not really a Russia anymore. You're just a terrible Russian faction. I mean, it looks like the Americans are actually losing this gunfight. I think it's partly down to the fact that their enemies have so many men. And also, I think their shots are kind of breaking up this hill. While these Americans are kind of firing over them. They've got such a massive height advantage that it's actually working a little bit against them. The French, I keep saying French, Americans shifting their units to match the Russians. The Russians, I think, have linked up with their British counterpart. 75 men, holding to the last. Incredible perseverance from the war criminal battalion of the French. Holding for dear life. I believe Lapua is Finnish? I'm not sure. It would be very fitting if this was Italian, because it's Sankulad. We don't talk about what the Sankulad did in Italy. Cossacks trying to be a little pest, being caught out by the United States militia. That's why you always keep reserves, kids. Keep that in mind. Very satisfying defense over here from the French. Slotting into every little nook and cranny of this town. Finally, the French having an 8-pounder of their own to call home. Although I say that, they're lumbering them, probably moving them a little bit closer so they can actually do anything. As we say it though, British 9-pounder moving up, I'm pretty sure, did they lose that lumber? Yeah, they lost the lumber already, but they realised that while it would be good to have 2 guns here, the importance of moving the gun was a bigger opportunity, so it was worth losing that 1 cannon that its lumber's removed, just for the purpose of shuffling it closer into that town. Brilliant move from the British. Genuinely very well done. It's what I would do. I mean, it's the smart move. Of course, everything I do is a smart move. Big gunfight going off. Russians, as always, outnumbering their opponents. A little mistake here with the skirmishers. Like the skirmishers walk in front, meaning that the overshot is going to hit these guys. Accidentally outranging themselves with their skirmishers. These 10-pound unicorns, I think they've realised that they are, yes, they're a problem, but dedicating all their guns to it, not really going to do as much as they would hope to do. Right now they need to focus on cutting down the manpower of the Russians with their artillery, also killing the 6-pound horse artillery. I mean, the Russians doing exactly what the British were doing, which is moving their gun forwards to push the enemy, creating a zone of hell that the enemy do not want to walk into. British, light infantry formation with their riflemen. They're kneeling down and firing reliably into the enemy. Actually, it looks like the tactic from Tom here was to pull their gun back, further back, so it was a harder target to hit. It's going to be a question of whether or not that was a good choice, because those lumber guns are vulnerable. Just needs one good shot. Speaking of one good shot, there's one. American guns showing exactly what they were made for. Killing a cannon of that pesky horse artillery that has been hounding the Americans for so long. We've got a real battle of the heights over here. We've got militia versus slightly better trained militia. I mean, historically, half of these units would be holding sticks. Ooh, an attempt here from the Sankala. Tom trying to charge this gun. Well, they've... Ooh, they may actually make it. No way. There is no way. Wow. Very impressive that those units actually made it there. I mean, seeing as they already started out with half the manpower, incredible that they actually decided to not break. But while they didn't kill that gun, you saw just how much that British player enjoyed moving that gun forwards. Oh no, Tom. That is exactly why you don't leave a gun unlumbered, especially against a howitzer. Because that shot just didn't care about the fact that it was behind hell, and just arced that shot, bang, dead. As I was saying, British player very clearly fond of moving his guns, which was becoming a real problem for this French player. So by actually removing the lumbers of the gun, Tom's given himself a bit of a fighting chance. Although, funnily enough, now that that lumber's dead, he could re-man the guns with his 9-pounder crew. And he's actually shuffled his own men back onto the guns. Ooh, Jesus. Napoleon catching some overshot, I believe.
Our men are running, sir.
Down to 7 men, he needs to be very careful with that. He's getting canister now. It's his demi brigade. These are his actually good units that he needs to look after. They're getting canister being faced by the guns. I don't know if he realizes that. A big push. Don't know if that Lancer charge actually did anything. Looks like it did actually. Looks like it made contact without there being a square. Probably why these guys broke. Battle for the Heights. Looking like a bit of a Russian victory so
this
far.
battle is almost
They're losing
done.
a lot of men. So are the Americans. Some regulars haven't brought in though. These guys getting chewed up a little bit, but they have manpower for days. They're Kings of Russia. Over here, gunfight going about the same. Both sides struggling. Although this might change with the fact that finally the British have advanced far enough to meet people who actually have got guns. As opposed to the wall of militia that definitely do not. They're throwing rocks at the enemy, which is why their accuracy sucks so much. But now that they've met the buck and ballers, the nightmare feel of the American army, the British decide to fall back because it's not going to work out well for them. Am I seeing a unit back here? Whoa! I didn't even notice that. Looks like from the start of the game, there's been a native skirmisher unit behind them. Oh, please tell me they get there. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. Killing those guns would be amazing. Okay, looking so far. Oh, a heavy hook coming round flank of the Americans. They're getting fish hooked on this hill by the Russians, although I've got to say, that doesn't matter at all because I mean, look how cool this gunfight is. Let's just take a moment to appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, this is really the only good shooters of the Imperial faction. Yes, they're getting fish hooked, but these guys are militia, they can take it. All the while, Chris countering with his regulars. This is his more elite corps. These are his good units. He is actually bringing most of his reserves to this right side, so I think he's realized that they're going to want to take
One
this
of our
3-pointer
units
if
has
they want
used all its
any
ammunition,
chance.
sir.
Russian horse artillery is now dead. Unicorn still firing, but I don't know. It's such an intriguing gunfight over here. Where I mean, look at this. It's so cool to look at. I mean, clearly the Americans have far superior position. I mean, look at this hell line. But the thing is, by having this hell line, it's actually shielding the Russians from the far superior round shot of the cannons. Looking back over onto this side, it looks like the British have decided to wheel in their other 9-pounder. Losing the gun intentionally over here. I believe it was this cannon here that had its liver shot out. Relimbering it.
Our men are running,
Shoving
sir.
it over here. But the whole gunfight re-engaging over here. I think there was a brief gunfight we missed over here where it was just a light infantry showing their worth. I think they walked forward, took one volley, and then stepped back and killed a lot of men doing it. I don't know if the French have the manpower here. I thoroughly do not think that this French army have got the amount of men that is necessary. I know, look at this. This could be a game changer. The British realizing that they need to take this town, and so they've implemented their melee troops. Cameron Highlanders being sent in. Fun fact, my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was a 79th Cameron Highlander, and more importantly, in World War I, my great-grandfather fought as a Cameron Highlander as well, being one of 13 in his regiment that survives. Scots Guards going in against the light infantry buckenballers. That is a fight you do not want to be in. You want to stay as far away from these guys as possible. Ah, they are taking a bit of casualties though. I think they're taking most of that from artillery.
Our men are running,
But yes, absolutely shredding this light infantry. I believe they might actually move on to that second one. It was already weak. I mean, yeah, Chris Wright, get them away. But they're not going to survive because, I mean, look at this wall of incredibly elite troops here from the British, backed up by the 300-man Russian musketeer units, and the fight for the town really has begun. Tom finally moving some grenadiers over here, although it's going to be a question of whether or not those grenadiers can stand to the Scottish might. Saint-Culat, being militia, are not winning this. Is there any elite units from the French other than the general? Tom is bringing his general and realizing he needs to, if he has any chance of this. I don't think there is any elite unit other than the general. Looks like some horse guards, heavy cav unit, elite heavy cav unit. Try to sneak in. Ooh, and we have a proper fight. We have the French demi-brigade grenadiers going up against the 3rd Petty Scots Guard. Arguably, this should be a victory for the Scots Guard, just down to the fact that they have such higher stats, plus the fact that they are elites. And being Scottish, they actually have higher attack stats than most, being treated as a grenadier unit just because of their nationality. But the 280 men of the Grenadier Demi-Brigades might be enough to chew them down. We'll see. They're losing a lot of men. Scots Guard down to 113. Oh, I think the Demi-Brigade Grenadiers are losing more men. Ooh, British foot going in against the Kentucky Buckenballers. I think they took a pretty hefty volley coming in. This is going to be a close one. Very tired versus active. I think that might be the tide changer. I think this might be a French melee victory. This is where it's going to come down to. There's going to be a big melee. Speaking of big melee, ooh, I can't tell if that was I don't know if that was I'm mumbling on my own words. I don't know if that was an effective charge. I wasn't able to look at it. I'm sorry. I can't look everywhere. But it looks like there was a militia charge that broke. Ooh, shattered 2 units of Russians here. Potentially another one I just can't see. A very tired Russian unit here that's dying, and in return there is a regulars unit that is breaking 2 relatively weak militia, but there is the elite core of the Americans coming in to fill their gaps. Don't know if the Russians have the same. We'll have to see. Looks like a little bit more of a brawl going on. Regulars taking on the Grenadiers. Could swing in the way of the regulars just to the fact that they aren't tired. There we go, with the implementation of the Royal Horse Guards. Yes, they've lost a lot of men in that charge, as have the Scots Guard, but the Scots Guard still kicking. Saint-Culat going up against the British foot. British foot actually losing that melee. Horse Guards very tired as well. Napoleon, gotta be careful. Looks like a mass charge from the Camden Highlanders, and also some British foot into the Saint-Culat. This is kind of what Tom wants. Ooh, Hauser's landing very close. This is kind of what Tom wants. He's got manpower. He wants to take this to be a manpower duel. United States regulars coming in to back them up.
Our men are running,
breaking
sir.
2 units, breaking a Scots Guard unit, and also about to break this Russian musketeer unit. Sankula holding off this British foot battalion, this Russian musketeer. We're coming in all-out war in this middle. We've got artillery firing in all directions, actually hitting more of the enemy than themselves. Another Russian unit breaking here, another Russian unit here breaking. The British foot in here breaking as well. Might slow this down here, slow motion, just to have a better view of what's actually going on, because this is such a massive brawl. Looks like, so these Sankula driven down to very small numbers, but we do have the regulars standing here, able to pour fire into them. We have some more Sankula and light infantry breaking here, with the British foot falling back. More British foot falling back. Honestly, it looks like just from... Ooh, artillery needs to be careful. Just looking at this from a bird's eye point of view where they slowed down, it looks like this was actually more of a loss. Actually, no, yeah, looking at that, this was actually more of a loss for the coalition. And I'll explain why. It looks like the British charge, so the way that the British army works is they have the British foot and they have the Scottish foot, or Highlander infantry. Highlander infantry, Austria kind of do the same thing as this, where they have Hungary troops and they have German troops, where there's a certain core of units that you can choose to bring for that faction. In this case, it's Scottish or English, or I think the word they use is British, but it means English. Where the English are the shooting section of the army, where they have incredibly good shooting stats. And then the Scottish they have medium shooting stats, but they have very high melee and morale, so that they're kind of the grenadier. You know, you can kind of use their infantry as both infantry and grenadiers.
Our men are running, sir.
And then you can use the British as more of an elite shooting corps. And it looks like the charge was majorly done by British foot, which are the kind of English type of this, which they don't have the Scottish are trying to come back in the Sankula here. But because they implemented their men, their shooting units into this, the French kind of held out because of their manpower. They're able to just shove in so many men that they actually kind of tore down the enemy. And in the melee, they were able to break a couple of Russian units, which were 300 men, get some good artillery shots. They broke a heavy cav unit. I think they actually killed the heavy cav unit. They killed an elite, which was the Scots Guard, which is the best melee unit in the enemy army, or I should say in the British army, while only losing militia as a byproduct of that. Camden Highlanders still running, very tired. These units are basically dead, which means that the melee core of this British army is likely ran down pretty hard, although saying that, they do have another Camden Highlander foot over here, or I should say Cameron Highlanders over there. So that looks like it was a little bit of a defeat for the British in the melee side of things. However, while it was on the melee side of things, they now control the house, which did have a Sankula.
Our men are running, sir.
Men running everywhere, wow. But sneakily shoved in there was a Sankula, but the men here fighting, they have taken the house. It's coming down to a fight here, though. British, not a lot of men. They are bringing the reserves now, and they've got their light cav. But as are French. Consular Guard Grenadiers being brought in, they'll win anything they go up against, because those Scots Guard are dead. They're really the only counter to them. And then we've got the Grenadier Demi Brigade here, almost full manpower still. We've got some weak British on the front line. They've been absolutely hammered by artillery. Sankula being charged by the Light Dragoons. Did Tom see it? He did not. I don't know if that's going to break. They do have a chef to have their morale up a little bit, but we'll see. There's a square next to them. We'll see, we'll see, we'll see. Anyway, Russians look like they're moving in for another attempt at a charge. Luckily for the French here, they did have their Americans backing them up. The native warriors coming in. We've had a little bit of a break here. Looks like the gunfight isn't going well. For everything other than gunfights, the Imperial side has basically won. They've won all of the melees, which really they should be with their manpower. But they have lost the gunfight's pretty heavily. We're actually going to go back into regular speed here. Sankola breaking. They were being charged by cavalry. They didn't square. British foot joining them as they try and attack another square. 64 men into the square. Although this isn't a battalion mass square. Battalion mass square is being slightly stronger than most squares, especially hollow squares, giving them a little bit of a melee boost, but it doesn't matter because they have such low manpower. That square is actually going to break. Yep, as we saw there. Grenadiers being implemented. Those native warriors are going to be key. Tom just needs to learn. Oh, he needs to really be careful of his general here. 4 men. I think possibly being shot by the Russians. Yeah, being shot at by the Russians, being targeted specifically by the Russians, which is not a general snipe. He is in range of infantry. Oh no, the French general breaks. Napoleon has broken. He's down to 3 men. And he's probably not going to come back. That's only 3 men. That has really changed the tide of the battle. Ooh, great shot, the Dragoons. That has really changed the tide in the battle, because if you remember, the majority of the French army is militia, and while they are still alive militia, they've taken some heavy casualties almost everywhere. And they're currently being canistered, but the fact that they have almost exclusively militia means that they're going to really struggle keeping their morale up. Speaking of keeping morale up, British breaking a little bit here, but look at the strength of this British contingent in the center. Not only do they have these Russians here fighting them, they've got all of these heavy chunks of British. Howitzers coming in. Oh! Not killing as many as it really should have for a howitzer shot, but killing enough that they're actually falling back out of the town. Look at the clump of men here. Howitzer shot, absolutely slamming those Gamdeners. Looks like Tom using this time to implement his grenadiers. As we see, native warriors, as I said, incredible melee unit. One of the best melee units. But because there was nothing to really keep their morale up, they didn't last very long. Demi brigades fighting both the Russians and the British here. Consular Guard absolutely ripping apart the British in this melee. The Consular Guard probably going to win this because they're shevved. They're also the Consular Guard, although these Russian Dragoons probably not going to make it any easier for them. Grenadier Demi brigades holding. Chris running his men in now. I think they've realised there's only 12 minutes left in this clock. They need to retake this town. Native warriors coming flying in. Tom is shifting everything he has over here other than this left corps. Really, he should be just giving up this left, keeping his guns here, moving his heavy cav and cavalry over here into the town to hold it. He needs to just give up on this river crossing because if they want to attack round this, they can, but they'll have to walk into the artillery, which is not something that Britain can afford to do. Howitzer shot. Ooh. Would have been great if it had landed in there for the French. Consular Guard still standing. Tired, but still standing. Native warriors being implemented. We now have the Grenadier Demi brigades. Low in morale. Yes, they don't have a general. Warriors living up to the name of warriors. I reckon this would be about the same time that the British are probably going to pop a rally or inspire. Ooh, Russian Dragoons breaking. British foot getting shoved aside. They're breaking. Cameron Highlanders also breaking. Wow. An incredible assault in the town. I mean, look at the bodies here. That is one hell of a melee. And in that melee, it looks like the Imperial side have actually taken the town back. The house is empty, native warriors plunged into the side of this poor, tired British foot unit. They need to stop charging. They need to stop charging. Pull back. But wow. It looks like just from how effective that charge was. Oh, native warrior sadly being used.
We have taken a building, sir.
Too far. Looks like other than this little light infantry section with a couple of foot battalions which are facing up against these guys, looks like the British are actually losing over here. They have taken too many casualties. There is still a little bit of Americans holding over here, a little core of them. Americans kind of holding on to this town now. And I mean, the French still do have a significant force, but that significant force is almost entirely militia. In fact, it's essentially just militia. The Carabiners losing half their manpower already. Being moved back in. Native warriors coming back. That is fortunate for the Americans. Americans holding this right side still, actually. They've not moved off this hill. They need to, though. They actually don't have any reserves. This is... Their front line is just their front line. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reserve units. All on the right. This unit forming square for some reason. Realistically, for this Imperial side to actually win, they need to hold their front line how it is. And I think they need to try and move up this way, because right now we have got 3 points there. If they took it, there was a house here, which is currently Russian. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, no, I think they're currently winning an LOC. Obviously, the French general being dead isn't going to help that. The British general taking a little bit of casualties. I mean, look at the canister. The canister in this front line has been insane from this one gun from the 9-pound battery. There we go. The British finally deciding that it is time to consolidate their army in the town. They're going to have to throw everything at it if they want to win this. Ooh, howitzer shot. It's a good shot. Here we go. Our little love story of the natives. Proving why guerrilla is so important. Artillery shots nearly hitting them. Finally, they have made it, and they have got one hell of an enemy to go up against. Yes, they're skirmishers, but they're also natives. What a charge. Incredible. That was a story and a half to watch. Running from all the way in the back of the map just proves why the natives were so effective in the 1812 war. Killing essentially the most expensive part of the entire coalition side in one move with a skirmisher guerrilla unit that cost about 150 gold. Where's the British general? British general hiding behind a building. Probably a smart move, seeing as there's a lot of shells firing everywhere and also bullets. Tom using this time to actually use his cavalry to flank round. He probably should be starting to consolidate his units. He is actually doing that with some of the Sankila, pulling them to the right, because I think they've realized they need to hold on to this town. Artillery causing havoc in the enemy. Both enemies have artillery superiority in this little town, but the fact that these Russian unicorns back here are dead turns the tide of the entire battle. If those had died a lot earlier, this wouldn't really be a question of who would be winning this, because, I mean, the artillery is insane. We're going to have to see what can this coalition side do. I mean, already they're doing so much. Only 6 men left in this 9-pounder. I want to know how many kills they've gotten. But they have gotten a lot. They lose another man. A skeleton crew for a 9-pounder. Only having enough men to even fire it in the first place. Light cavalry unit. Torn in half by an artillery shell from the 6-pounder. Or I should say salvo, I suppose. Ah, okay, Chris is finally... I think it's clicked in his brain that the Russians don't have as much manpower as they really look like. Although, to be fair, neither does the Americans. They don't really have a whole lot of manpower, but they need to start pushing, because this three-pointer here is significant. If
Our
they can
men
take
are
that,
running, sir.
it'll really help their alliance. This 1-pointer, despite blown up, still in contention, although it's weak. 6-pound artillery moved up here. What's it firing at? It's just firing straight forwards into the forest. I think actually killing something. Not sure. Yeah, killing 2 men there. Canister starting to really catch up to the French. This is the strategy of the French and Americans now. Really coming to play. Oh, great artillery shot. Breton needs to thin out his lines. He's done a fantastic job of it so far. He's done a really, really, really good job so far of keeping his lines nice and thin. He's doing it now. Especially when you're against the artillery, like they are. These poor Cossack skirmishers. But I get charged by the Simi Asars, although As skirmishers, they do have the ability to shoot. They kill no one. You couldn't write it. Oh? Oh? There we go. They did what they set out to do. They killed 4 unicorns. That is an unimaginable thing to do. I think that gun is finally dead. Yeah. Finally they've routed the terror of this right side for the British. Finally being put down. Now the gunfight really begins. Honestly, for Tom, it might just be a better move to pull back. If he just holds his men like this, he gives himself an enfilade like this across the British. Although the British, I mean, it really shows, yes, they've got the quality. Yes, they are winning the gunfight everywhere that they're fighting. But their manpower is starting to really show. They do not have the men for this. I mean, right now they're getting outflanked by Tom. Carabiners coming around to clean up. These riflemen threaten the general. Reserves coming into the town. I mean, look at this. British, still very, very possible that they can hold this. But right now they are battered and they do not have the men to take the town. Although, speaking of the men to take the town, here they come. Pavlovsky Grenadiers, one of the best, if not the best, grenadier unit for the Russians with their gorgeous hats. They're looking to face us. We also have the 2 Russian generic. They're still awesome grenadier units. This is one hell of a grenadier corps, which is going to be plunged straight into the center of the enemy. British general flaunting the fact that he still has one coming in. It's going to be a question of what can the Americans put in there. They have got the leathernecks. They do have the native warriors. They do have the consular guard. They do have the they do have everything here that is needed to match this. They just need to do it well. Carabiners killing the riflemen. It's taken long enough. British Foot Battalion actually doing quite well in this melee. Ignore the bar, it's never correct. British Foot Battalion here is weak. 4th Regular Warriors, living up to their name as always. Probably going to try and fight in here, lodge themselves. They need to hurry up and move these guys. They need to move the reserves right now in there. Oh, sorry, we've completely... The problem is there's been so much fighting in this left, I can't see anything in the right. We have 2 minutes and 53 on the clock right now.
Our men are running, sir.
Something's running from the Americans, but it looks like Americans are actually pushing the Russians. They just need to advance a bit more. They just need to move like this, and they own that 3-pointer. This 1-point house, destroyed but still active. They are just throwing everything in now. Natives need to hurry up. Warriors getting charged in the back by these grenadiers. These grenadiers coming in for a charge in the leathernecks. Leathernecks forming square. The light infantry corps of the British showing why they are light infantry. Throwing themselves in. Wow. Russian grenadiers.
Our men are running,
You
sir.
can just see how effective they are. Now they are going against the natives. This is the best of the best versus the best of the best for each faction. Demi brigades going in on the Russian grenadiers, backed up by the native warriors. An unlikely alliance, but it is one. Ooh, and it's not looking good for the French. They are still holding Consular Guard here. Consular Guard chasseurs. We have got a ton of reserves coming over this way, but this has been a nightmare push to defend for the French. I mean, look at this, the grenadiers coming in. However, speaking of that, the SAR's back here, and yes, the Americans have in fact pushed enough to take this 3-pointer home, if they can hold that line. 1 minute 22 left. Artillery flying in. Not hitting quite what they wanted. Consular guards holding a freaking square right in the middle of these units. Consular guard chasseurs. They are skirmishers. They shouldn't really be here. Yeah, the manpower wearing these poor consular guard down. We're going to go into slow motion for this. Consular guard have been torn down to 70 men against this tide of red and green. Although these guys are all tired. And light infantry too. Easy to break if they have to. The general watching over Thomas Graham, 1st Baron of Lindach. And look at the bodies that have been strewn over this battlefield. Wow. Well, corpse cleanup duty is not going to be fun. Do still have this 6-inch howitzer. This house, not yet taken by this core of men. There is some Americans here still. The problem with this push here from the British and Russians is the reserve corps of the Saint-Hilaire swinging in now. I think by rule of LOC, these French technically still control this because they do have this army here. They've got the artillery here. And I mean, they've got total numerical superiority here. If a howitzer just landed right here, that would be the dream shot. Grenadiers are trying to rush across, but let's be real, you're very tired. You're also about to get side charged by the Sans-Culottes. 4th Regular Warriors turned the wrong way, they've dipped their feet in the water, not aware that behind them there is a massacre. Looks like a frontal charge from the state militia. But there is reserves to back them up. The Russians condensing. I think the Russians have realized that they are not taking this right side. Probably better fall back. This 3-pointer is still held though. I don't think this house is going to be taken in time. We have 12 seconds. I'm going to try and pause this on exactly 1 second left. This grenadier unit doesn't count, like I said. Scrambling for a house like this doesn't quite count, especially when there is numerical superiority kind of over here. They do have some units over here. Realistically, this unit is very dead. This is kind of like a last-minute scramble into the house. We do have a Sans-Culottes formed in battalion mass. Holding on. There is a charge against these light infantry. They are light infantry. They are breaking the Sans-Culottes, but they are light infantry. They're going to die very soon. Quite a few reserves coming over. Oh, Consular Guard coming back. The Leathernecks coming back too. 4th Warriors. That's exactly 0 right there. Okay. Now it's time for the adjudication. Okay, so I've got the context. Let me bring up the map. Make it a little bit bigger. It's a big map. So, what we've seen so far is a French retreat back here. Then they kind of held this area here, held the town joint with the Americans. They have been shoved off a little bit from the town. They do have total numerical superiority over here, although that numerical superiority is militia. There's some units charging across here. However, is it enough? Is it enough? Is the problem as well. There is a... Actually, hang on. No, there isn't. I was going to say there's a Pavlovsky in this house. There actually isn't a Pavlovsky in this house. Where did it go? Did they rout? Where are they? Pavlovsky Grenadier unit just disappeared. Phase shifted out of existence. Where did they... Am I going crazy? I swear there was a Pavlovsky back here. Unless it did route and I'm just not seeing it. Lightfoot, Grenadier, 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 Grenadier. I mean, I'm just seeing Grenadiers over here. Huh. I don't know if it's maybe just... No, it wouldn't just be not showing me that. It does just look like there is no one in this house. Yeah, there isn't. So by default, technically then, it is in control of the Imperial side. So they've got their unit in here. I mean, if you hold space, it shows they've got their unit in there already. That must have been it. The Leathernecks, I think, were already in the house. And the Pavlovsky broke? I'm not sure. I might have to check from the other side. Anyway, this side held, but they had this big, massive brawl for the town. Across the front line here, Russians have held. They definitely still hold this house here. But this three-pointer is firmly in the control of the Americans. They've got reserves over here. He did go for a last-minute charge, but we've got to be aware that that last-minute charge was just like the British one over here, where it was more just, let's shove the enemy away from the points that we want. I feel like it goes kind of without saying that despite the numerical superiority over this side, I think this town is definitely in control of the British. What they do have here is they have got very tired units. They've got very weak units. But they do have a general. These units breaking, Tom is just trying to countercharge everything over here, just throwing everything at them. But these units are very tired. We can count this town for sure as being a LOC victory for the British and Russians, because, I mean, the little radar's not showing it, but right now, basically everything important is being held here. This too, yes, it is like right here, I think, but I'm gonna say that is basically a 2 to say like this little peninsula area, which is being battered by this. The problem is this is quite contested and it could go either way, and while the 2 is technically under these units here, the house was the main thing they were fighting over. That was the big important one. Now the question is going to be, where do we go from here? Because there is this gap in the line here, but technically that is held by this little ring here, and there is artillery here holding this. So let's just count the LCs. So right now we have got a three-pointer in Nikollerby. I absolutely butchered that. But I'm typing this in my notes app on my phone. We have a 3 up here. Then we have a 1 here. So let me just type 1. Then we have got 2 here. We've got 1 here. And that is the extent of the coalition points right now. So they've got a 3, 1, 2, 1. 3, 1, 2, 1. Let me just count that up. Actually, I can count that in my brain. That is 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7 points. And for the Imperial side, we have 2 here. Actually, did I count the house as 1? Oh, hang on. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I didn't count the house as 1. So that is 1 there. Then we have a 2 point here. Then we have a 1 point here. And then we have a 3 point here. So that is also 7. Oh, fuck. Wait, hang on, no, I might be wrong here. Nope, I'm right. It is also 7. Well. So it's... Oh, no. Fuck. So, by counting the points, it looks like these guys are actually even. So it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well. How do we do this now? I think I'm going to have to count this on who I think personally is going to win this. Now, the problem is that is going to be a bitch to deal with, thinking. So, I'm going to put my thinking cap on here. I'm also going to see if I can get my flatmate to come in and say who he thinks wins. But obviously, he doesn't quite have the context I do. So, we're just going to do this left to right. I'm going to give both teams the opportunity to refight this. Not refight this exact battle, but I'm going to give them the opportunity that if they want to, they can just fight this battle again and do a rematch because they are drawn on points. It wasn't expected that that would end up happening, but they can draw on points. Because, I mean, like, look at this. It's so even. Personally, if I'm looking at it from my opinion, Unfortunately, I am going to have to pull the if this did continue card, which is a shame because it can't. Seeing as they are drawn, I kind of have to count the fact that everything that's happening so far, we have all of this and stuff going on, we have all this fighting going on. Who do I think would actually win if this battle continued? As I said before I counted this, I think this left side is probably going to be a French victory, and let me explain myself for that. Right now, this house is being held. So we have got this in here. Actually, hang on, I just realized. I might be wrong. I think this 2 point here is actually holding this little river bit. Because I don't think it's quite on Lapua. Obviously, that it's highly contested. You know, there's going to be people either way that aren't happy with this. Personally, I take this 2-pointer as meaning this. I said this far earlier after the battle came out when I saw the screenshot. I'm pretty sure that this is, in fact, a 2-pointer here because it's kind of signifying that this is like the last defensive area. However, obviously, that could be argued that it's this house. Either way, if this 2-pointer is in fact this bridge and not this house, then it means that they technically have 1 extra point because it's 2 points there and 1 point there, which means that they win by 8-7. Either way, what I was getting at is, like I said before, and sadly I do have to say that, oh, if this battle were to continue, because there is literally nothing else I can do. There is nothing else I can do to say who wins what point. Because right now, this is super highly contested. For the end of the battle, this is basically destruction versus destruction. These guys do have more men, but they've got militia. It could play out however you want. This side, this house is definitely held by the Russians, but this 3-pointer is held by the Americans, and firmly held by the Americans because this is their elite corps. I mean, this is they're 2 regular buck and ballers. Could probably 2v3 these guys here. Like, these guys are really good, plus they're chefed. And they've also got essentially fresh units over here with their elite. And they have got a 6-pounder here as well. They could fight this out forever. But I think this left side, if it came down to it, if the battle continued, which is, again, the only real thing I can do, other than, one, maybe put a poll or something and say, is this a land bridge that's the 2-pointer, or is the house the 2-pointer? Because that really would shift the battle, because this house is definitely, this area is definitely under control by the Imperial side. But what we have here is we have essentially the fresh reserve corps, maybe not these units, but essentially the fresh reserves of the French. Yes, they don't have a general, but the Sansculottes don't really die that easy, especially when you've got these carabiners who actually have Inspire. And I believe the Consular Guard is over here. Yeah, Consular Guard could very easily be giving some Inspire, plus the Letternex here. Looking at the enemy, yes, they do have these units here, which are, I think, the most manpower they have. Yeah, they've got these 3 units, the strongest manpower-wise they've got on this side. These guys probably going to hold whatever gunfight they go up against. However, they've got a lot of artillery against them, 2 units over here. And they're also going to get outflanked, and realistically a charge is probably going to kill these guys. And when these guys die, they're only being protected by these units here, which are quite weak. They're probably just going to get rolled. These units here, again, weak. Likely to be outnumbered. These guys, again, very weak. Also, it is important to mention the fact that the French do have Hussars behind them. And they also have heavy cav behind them, which is going to be a nightmare if this battle continued. I am astonished this 9-pounder is still alive. Yes, the British General is here. However, the British General is in fact only there because there is this little corps here. This here and this here are the strongest parts of the British. And this is the one thing that is changing this for me. The one thing that is actually tying this together for me to even possibly think that this might be a French hold over here. Like a little bit, this might turn into a French victory. while they have been destroying these Sancula, and they really have been, this unit is light infantry. Light infantry don't even have bayonets. They suck in melee. They are terrible. Not only do they suck and are terrible, they have 170 men and they're very tired. Very tired is a awful malice to be having, especially in melee. Back here, the only real reserve unit they have over here, very tired. Both these units, tired, actually, sorry, just this unit tired, this unit active. However, again, light infantry, and while these guys are militia, they're chunks of militia with chevs, and also, I mean, come on, I mean, the morale, they're probably going to win whatever melee they go into here. This light infantry, this is going to die, whatever goes into it next. This unit of grenadiers is still a grenadier unit, but it's tired. This Russian grenadier battalion, very tired. Realistically, the warriors come in, the leathernecks, actually the leathernecks are tired, but they do have better stats. I mean, very tired versus very tired, these guys are probably going to die. Consular Guard and Spire as well over here. The only thing that's holding the Inspire is the general, and the general is trapped. These units probably would be used to fight these guys, but these guys aren't going anywhere. If they try and attack this town, probably going to lose. Looking over here, though, they have got this little core here. So essentially what I'm trying to say is I think everything in this town is probably going to die if this battle continued. These units are going to definitely die in this melee. Like, they have no chance. Yes, they are beating the Sankula unit, but I mean, they've got reserves coming. And a lot of reserves coming. These guys probably also going to die in a continued melee, especially with the artillery superiority here, 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 here. I mean, howitzer here, these guns here, this gun here, this gun here, these guns here. We also do have these units here, which are down in the middle. These guys probably not going to do anything other than just hold these guys up. These guys are weak again. I mean, barely units anymore. These guys... probably just, I mean, this kind of frontline here area doesn't really matter because these guys aren't going to do anything without a left attack or a right attack. On this right side, though, this is a little bit of the deal breaker for the right side. United States regulars coming here, United States regulars coming here. This little section is a bit weak. They do have artillery here. General coming in here. Yes, the enemy... I keep saying enemy, I really shouldn't be. The Russians here are moving in, but so are the Americans. And the American regulars are just factually better than the Russian musketeers. And the only thing that makes Russian musketeers good is the fact that they have manpower, but these units do not. Even their grenadier doesn't. There is also this fresh core of essentially the elites of the American army, plus these reserves, and there is this little unit here, but it doesn't really matter much. If there was an attack on the right from the Russians, Russians would lose. If there was an attack on the right by the Americans, the Russians would lose. The center, while you could make the argument of, yes, the Americans do have less men here, which they do. They definitely do. The problem is, if you try to push into this, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of artillery. And I actually forgot, there is another piece of artillery here, which can just fire up here like that. Because of that, I'm kind of shutting this off my mind. And I remember, I'm trying to do this unbiasedly. But if I was playing in a battle, if any of you were playing in a battle, FCN or Vanilla or anything, even NTW3, any of these mods, if you see an artillery battery of this size, you're never, ever going to think, okay, I'm going to advance into that, because you would die. Even without infantry support, which there is, you would die. But the Americans aren't going to advance here without any support from either of the sides, because they would die. So this whole center area, to me, I'm kind of ignoring in my brain, other than the fact that there is artillery. This right side, whether the Russians attacked or retreated or got attacked by the Americans, they would lose this. And eventually they would lose the house, and then they would roll up the center like this. And because I've already said, I personally, in my opinion, I have got thousands of hours in this game, and I did, you know, essentially make the mod, and I've played the mod for thousands of hours. I'm pretty sure even with the militia, just the fact that they've got the manpower difference, these guys probably running low in ammo. Yes, they do have the gun here, but if this cavalry has anything to say about it, they won't have that gun for very long, especially with the heavy cav behind them. This would die. I'm very confident in saying I think this would die. It would be a question of this then, but without this, this dies because they're encircled. And yes, they've got these units, but these units don't really do anything because, I mean, look at the manpower on them. But you also have to put this down to who has more cavalry and who has more artillery. Now, we can't see the enemy cavalry, although I'm pretty sure I've got a good enough idea of it. I'm going to look at the replay from the other side as well, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. But cavalry-wise, despite coming into this battle with less cavalry, the Imperial side, it looks like, have got more cavalry. They've got SR and they've got heavy cav behind them. This heavy cav could cause so much damage because these units are starting to get small enough they actually can't form square these guys. Plus, I mean, the main tactic so far in this town is going to be charging. Heavy cavalry is going to really, really put a dampener on anything that goes on in here. But this is the real kicker. Aside from the fact that the Imperial have got heavy cav, the other main thing is the artillery, and it is a really big thing. Artillery, we have seen, has dominated this entire battle. It is the one reason why this battle is even an idea still, because without the artillery, this would have been a total and complete annihilation by the coalition side. They would have thrashed these guys in every area, other than maybe this right, because to be fair, there wasn't really any artillery over here. It's just the fact that the British have got one gun here, yes, but it is, we'll say, unlimbered. It's also got cavalry next to it, although the cavalry does look like it's going for this. Not really focusing on that. Probably a good idea to do that. Anyway, they have one gun. The Russians, as far as I see, do not have any guns. In fact, they lost all of their guns here. And also over here. They had a horse artillery gun that died over here. However, on the other side, we have a 6-pounder, another 6-pounder. We have 1, 2, 3 6-pounders there, 2 18-pounders there, 8-pounder, another 8-pounder, another 2 guns there, and a howitzer. So, total number of round shot, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, I missed this cannon. We have 8 round shot cannons, and we have a howitzer. That is 9 artillery for the Imperial side against a big fat 1 from the coalition. And the 1 the coalition has 9 men, so half strength, and also is unlimbered and stuck. That is insane. If you were in any battle ever, and you were told your enemy has 9 guns and you have 1 and it's unlimbered and it's stuck where it is and it's not actually really doing much and it's going to get outgunned and there's cavalry around it. Let's be realistic. You're fucked. All it really takes is moving the guns or even just shooting them. But this is the thing. I really hate saying this is, oh, well, we're going to have to play it on what might happen, because you don't know what might happen. The entire French army might rout. The entire American army might rout. The entire British army might rout. The entire Russian, you get the point. I'm just purely doing this down to the fact that there is literally no more anything I can think about in this battle. We've gone over the LOCs, we've gone over the stats, we've gone over who's tired and who's not. I mean, none of these guys are tired, some of them are winded, but that doesn't actually mean they're tired yet. I'm entirely putting this down to positioning, the actual stats and what units can do. Remember, I was the one that did most of the stats for them. I don't think this version particularly, I think that was some of the other devs, but I have played this version a lot, and also, you know, earlier versions of FCN I did make. And it's pretty similar. From the standpoint of knowing every stat, knowing what units can do, knowing the players as well, I've played extensively, obviously against Kings of Pegau here, but I've also played a lot against the team here, Bratanki, who are a very, very solid team. In my mind, it just swings that this is clearly going to be a Imperial victory, because yes, they have punched straight through here and they have done an amazing job of doing it, but they're just running out of steam, they're tired, they're mainly fighting with light infantry, and they're going up against superior numbers of shaved units with cavalry in their backlines, and also 9 artillery. And this Russian player is doomed. Unless he did a suicidal attack up here, or he shifted his entire army to this right side, or left side if you're on the Imperial side, right side if you're in Coalition, unless he shifts their entire army over here, in which case they would be losing this 3-pointer and this 1-pointer here, I don't see any way the Coalition can win. The British are far too hammered to do anything but stand still and get encircled. And the Russians can't do anything but get pushed. And it's entirely down to the cavalry and artillery and the unit stats and who's playing them. Anyway. Because of that reason, I personally believe that the winners of this tournament game are the Kings of Pegau. And that is not down for lack of skill on either side or, you know, anything at all. These guys had insane army picks. Both sides had really good, you know, crazy picks that countered a lot of each other's strategy. This is entirely down to how this battle was fought out. And it was fought out fantastically. And I use that word a lot, but I really mean it for this battle. This battle was unbelievable. I mean, look at the amount of dead bodies in this town. It's just it was such a good battle to watch. And it's a shame to say that one of these teams would get knocked out for this, of the tournament, because they played so well. Both sides played so well. If this was a final match, if this was the final, I would be delighted to see it. Unfortunately, it's not. One team must go through, one team must not. And for the reasons I've given today, and the probably half an hour breakdown I've taken of this end screen, I have to give it to the Kings of Pegau. And I know that might seem like, oh, he's just giving it to Tom and Chris because they're his friends. But genuinely, this is my 100% real take. I do think that this would go in the way of Imperial to the point that it's fair to say it would. And it was incredibly close from both sides. It was really well fought. I just, like I've said, I don't think the British have steam. There's nothing really the Russians can do other than condense over here. And for those reasons, the Imperial side are winning. I'm going to have a look at the other replay, but I'm not going to do that yet, because I'm looking at this and I'm going through my thought process. I have been sitting here for almost 2 hours now, and most of this has been just thinking who won. And when you're at this point where you're stuck for so long thinking who's won, it's really difficult. It's really difficult. I'm going to give the players the choice of replaying the battle. I already have, although there's probably a good chance they're not going to do that, especially when I say, well, I think the verdict is this. Because I doubt Tom and Chris would want to refight this. I think they're just going to take my opinion for my opinion. Although they might not. They might refight this because it was just a very good battle. But the main thing it's coming down to as well, other than the fact that I just think it's time's running out for this coalition side. Although for the fact that they were attacking, wow, did they do a hell of a job. This bridge, I'm pretty sure is in fact a 2-pointer bridge. I don't think the house is, but that's just much of muchness. I have no idea. It's a 2 on a map. Although, you know, technically that 2 is in fact behind the lines here. I'm inclined to think this is a 2-pointer. I might put this out as a poll saying, is this the 2-pointer or is this the 2-pointer on the Discord? Just see what people think about it. Either way, it doesn't matter. Because if this is a 2-pointer, then it just means de facto the Imperial win. If it doesn't, then it just means that, you know, we're still kind of going to my decision of I think the Imperial still won. Actually, are these guys going into the house? Or where are they targeting? They're targeting something. Wait, hang on. Is there... I thought for... There's a dead guy under the map. Whoa! What are you doing down here, bud? Is that... That's not Napoleon, but it's one of his guards. Wow. He's really fallen. Anyway. But yeah, no. Obviously, if this is a 2-pointer and this is a 1-pointer, then it's a de facto Imperial win. But for the sake of things, I think it's an Imperial win. They are welcome to refight this if they want to. I know I will probably put a poll asking if this is a 2-pointer or 1-pointer just to make things a little bit easier, see what the people think. But wow, that was a damn good battle. That was a damn good battle. Well played to both sides, Kings of Pegau. You did an amazing job. And Bratanki, I want to give a special shout out to you for the fact that you guys have stepped into the tournament, signed up as your team. You've went against probably one of the most experienced teams in the tournament. And you gave them one hell of a bloody nose to the point where I've had to sit for about an hour and discuss whether or not I think you guys won or not. The attack onto this town was jaw-dropping. It was really damn well done by whoever this British player is. You did a fantastic job pushing into the town against such superior numbers and artillery. And the Russian player, fighting him over here, well, it does look like a bad idea because the high ground were shielded from the artillery over here. Sadly, losing your artillery just because you didn't have anything back here to protect from those natives. But you guys really pulled out the bag. You did a fantastic job, and yes, I know I didn't give the win to you guys. You tried. You tried damn well. And honestly, I would have been equally as happy to have given you guys the win if you were in the enemy's opposite. Like, if you guys were playing as the French and Americans, and you guys had pulled off this and the battle looked like this, I would have been very surprised, and I would have given you the win all the same. You guys have done such a good job, and that should be commendable. I would be surprised if there is a single battle in this tournament that is anywhere near the closeness of this one. Anywhere near. And also anywhere near the skill level. I saw almost no mistakes, really, that I could point out. That were, like, obviously there was a couple of tiny mistakes that I wasn't pointing out every now and again just because it was like the stuff like over here I mentioned there was a skirmisher shooting 2 units back. Stuff like that isn't like major blunders that I've seen in some of the other games. In this game, it was very clearly 2 teams that knew what they were doing, knew how to work together, and they had their plans and they pulled them off, and they did a really good job doing that. And that was a joy to watch, and that's always the matches you want to see. So, thank you for such an incredible battle. Thanks for coming along to the tournament. There might be a loser's bracket. We'll see. We'll see. But you guys were one hell of a team. Congratulations to Kings of Pegau. For right now. Things could change. If people protest for a rematch, there might be one. By the way, for the time being, I'm saying this is a King of Pegau victory. But really, congratulations. That was very good. I'm actually going to see if I can get my flatmate through to see what he thinks. Although, admittedly, I don't really give a shit about his opinion because he doesn't know how to play the game. What are you laughing at?
I was on Minecraft.
Oh, okay.
And I was not laughing at that. I was wondering now.
Okay. Hi, guys. This is my flatmate. Say hello. Hi, everybody!
Hello, everybody. I'm the flatmate.
I hate you. Anyway, this is Mac, my flatmate. Also known as Vampire of Vengeance. I'll give you. Are you taking? Hey.
Why did you forget?
No, I wasn't sure if it was Demon of Vengeance still or Obsession.
I changed it. What?
Pretty colors. Speak louder. You need to speak into the mic.
Hello, everybody.
No. No. Anyway, did you hear any of my ranting from?
No.
Okay.
I was listening to Baby No Money.
I assure you, he does not do that. Anyway, so you don't.
To Jackson.
Oh, for God's sake. Okay, so you don't know who's playing on either team.
Tomic's playing on the other team.
Tom's playing on one of the teams, yes.
Oh, fuck.
Chris is playing here too.
Chris.
Middle guard.
Chris.
Yes.
I know who Chris is. Chris is my favorite.
Why am I not your favorite?
Out of everyone that's not you.
I hate you. Anyway, so let's look at what we've got here. Okay, So it's not Italy. It's Russia, and Britain versus France and America. Okay, so what we have.
Like a pretty solid team versus the absolute worst thing ever.
Hell versus torture.
Picture of good castle and a guy who's an evil castle.
Okay, anyway. So this is what the left flank of the battle is looking like. We have a lot of men over here. Pretty colors, like you said.
Wow!
And then,
holy shit!
And then we've got a lot of dead people here.
Whoa.
Probably about 2,000 to 3,000 dead people.
Sun Tzu. Fuck.
And also this house has a lot of bodies in it too.
Jesus.
It's also on fire.
What is that, the house of a thousand?
Shut up. There's also a house in here that's on fire, but this one is firmly held by the Leathernecks. Shut up. Anyway, so let me just run you through what's going on over here. The British attacked up here, and then in the last minute took the town by just running their men in and fighting everybody.
What town is that?
Corbin.
Cornwall?
No, Corbin. Idiot. Anyway,
We're still
so the French moved all of their...
Trent?
The French moved all the reserves over here, which is what they're using to plug the gap in. They're probably, in my opinion, going to push through here and do well. And they've got these guys here. They've got a heavy cavalry unit. Wow.
Wow! Holy shit!
They've also got a hussar unit back here.
Where's all the planes and shit?
There isn't. This is 1800s. We've also got the Americans
Oh, so where's
here.
the dinosaurs and stuff?
Oh my god, you're so annoying. We've also got
Edit
some
a
Americans
dinosaur
here.
right now, like on the screen. It goes,
I'm the editor, so I'm
Edit-
not gonna do
edit
that.
A T-Rex.
We've also got 9.
Holy shit! There's 2 T-Rexes.
We've also got 9 artillery
That's
on the
fucking
Imperial
bad.
side. The coalition don't have any.
T-Rexes.
Stop! You're not. That's autistic. Anyway, if you were looking at this, who do you think would win it?
There's more American fellas. Actually, no. There's so many British guys there. It's like a lot.
Really?
They've got a line formation. That's called down there. But the Americans.
What,
are
these
all,
guys?
Yeah, the Americans are all
Those
scattered
are
about.
the Russians.
Wait, fuck! I'm too far away from the screen.
Okay.
The Russians are friends with the Britons.
Guys
so the British,
are
anyway.
Britons, yes.
Well, that team, the British team,
Mm-hmm.
they've got a lot of guys there, like in a line. Whereas the American guys, they're all like fucked up, just like scattered about. So I think the British team have got this because it's as Sun Tzu said: you put them in a line and it's fine, but you put them all over the joint and you're
Put them in a
moron.
line, it's fine.
Yeah.
Oh dear. It's especially funny when you say that they've got their men in a line when the Americans have more men in a line than them.
Yeah, but the Americans have made one fatal flaw. They're closer to the river.
How's that a fatal flaw?
Because if there's one thing I know about Russian people, they will drown you.
They also have 5 artillery behind them.
Huh?
They've got 10 cannons behind them.
Oh yeah, you don't want to mess with those crazy Soviets. Oh, God knows what they've got.
No, not the Russians, the Americans.
Yeah, yeah, I know, but these Russian fellas, just don't be careful around.
You
them.
were the wrong person
I'm
to
telling
ask.
you, I'm telling you, Sun Tzu said that as well. You can see over there.
Uh-huh.
There's more Russians than Americans.
No, there isn't.
Oh fuck! I didn't see those fellas. See, I would die at war.
This is the entire elite corps of the Americans, and this is the shitty runaway
Wait,
corps
I'm looking
of
at the map. Is
Russians.
the blue the Americans?
The blue is the Imperials, yes.
And that's the Americans and the other. Who was it?
Americans and French.
Oh, fuck, what the French. The French don't factor into this. The French are doing absolutely nothing. They're sitting over there having coffee or whatever.
Okay, so the triangles are cavalry, the X's are artillery, and the squares are infantry.
Yeesh! Red team only got 1 X.
Yes.
Fucking. If I know anything about war, which I know quite a lot about war, you want to have more than that.
You
Given
do.
America have like fucking a tic-tac-toe board down there of X's, and that guy's only got. Right, but you don't know that. That 1 X, they could be the best cavalry ever.
Well, I do know that that X isn't the best cavalry ever because it's artillery.
Wait, fuck, that's what I meant. Artillery. They could be the best artillery on the planet. That could be like the Andy Murray of
Okay, so that artillery piece
artillery.
has half their crew left, and also don't have any limbers because they all died.
Or the underdogs, you know? If this was betting, they'd have higher odds. Lower odds, but you get more money. I mean,
are you insane? What kind of fucking take is that? They have... What?
I'm a gambler.
Clearly an awful one.
Right, so you want my genuine opinion?
Yes, your genuine opinion.
Well,
What
I
do you
don't
think's
like
going
the
on?
French.
That's not... No, I didn't mean your opinion on that. I meant your opinion on how this battle looks. Like, who's winning this one?
Well, you see, you say that to me.
Without thinking, I don't like the French, therefore they lose.
Oh, I'm biased. I'll take my bias.
Okay, if you're biased, then the British, instead of bringing Scottish troops, only brought English troops. And
There's only English troops?
And the only Scottish troops they brought entirely to just charge people, and they only brought 3 of them, and they all died.
Yeesh, this is getting political.
They all died.
The Scottish all died?
Yeah, because
That means the
they
game
just
is
used them to
inaccurate,
suicide.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's more blue dots. And if I'm going off of surely just monkey brain stuff, more blue dots. That's a bad thing for the red dots.
That is correct.
But see those red dots there? They're in like a field. Or like they're in like a...
Generally, you don't want to be in a field.
They're in like a farm kind of bit.
You don't want to be
Is that like that
in
white,
the open.
yellowish kind of bit is like
That's
crops?
well, no, it's ground.
Oh, shit. That's that point out the window.
You generally don't want to be in a field when there's
There's a little
9
house.
guns
But
pointing
who are
at
you
you.
controlling?
I'm not in this game.
Who's in this game? Oh, one of them's Chris and one of them's...
No. Out of these 4 players, so we have a Britain, we have a Russia,
there's
we have
4
an
fucking
America,
people.
and we have a France. Out of those 4 players, Tom and Chris are on the same team. So they're either Russia and
Who are
Britain.
the other 2 chaps?
They're their opponents.
Who?
Bratanki.
Who the fuck is Bratanki?
They're one of the teams.
Oh, is this from the tournament?
Yes. Yes, this is from the fucking tournament.
Right, I think... Wait, are Tom and Chris the blue ones?
I'm not going to tell you what team they are. They're either Russia and Britain or France and America.
I think the blue ones are gonna win because there's like 50 fucking times as many of them. I don't like you've brought me in like you said what's your opinion on this and you've shown me like a bunch of hydrogen bombs and then a coughing baby.
I actually
in a
made that
field.
point earlier.
So what do you want me to say here? Like outside of all the irony, the red guys are fucked. If I was the red guys, I'd wave a white flag, which is ironic because they're not French.
Yeah, well, no, because the reason I called you on was mainly because I thought it'd be really funny to hear you make any opinion on Napoleon Total War. But also because this is genuinely super highly contested. Because if I ever train you in the ways, which I will,
Oh no.
the entire French army here is militia. So these are actually war criminals called the Sans-Culottes who went into Italy and just tore it to pieces very famously. So these guys are the worst units ever. They suck balls, and they don't have any units left that are actually good other than these guys, this one unit of 23 men. And the British are the hyper-elite units that are, like, ungodly powerful, but they have no men left and also probably no ammo. So it's a question of, can the wall of men beat the
What
incredibly
this is,
good
if
shooters?
you think about it, is like the 100 men versus a gorilla.
Yes.
The difference is it's 100 men versus like a gorilla that's had its legs sawn off and it's out of ammo and it's a gun that it has. So what you're asking me is could 100 men pummel a crippled gorilla? And I'm gonna say yeah. I think the 100 men have a fucking solid chance of just turning that gorilla into a pummel.
Okay, so I'll reveal now to you. I had the same opinion. Where
You said that this is like 100 men.
I
versus a
did.
crippled gorilla.
I definitely didn't say that, but I did say that I think the Imperial side, which is the fancy name for France and America, they're winning because they have numerical superiority here. They have cavalry behind the enemy. They also have 9 artillery.
That's a lot.
Yeah, seeing as the Russians brought a grand battery of unicorns, which all got killed by one native man.
But now whoever killed that native man's gonna have like a lot of superpowers.
Yeah, I know.
Because he just
There
killed,
were
like, a
there were
bunch of,
native
like-
skirmishers that were back here, and throughout the entire game, they just
He
marched
just killed like,
like
a
this.
bunch of unicorns, so he can take their horns.
Yeah, he killed all of these guys, which are the strongest artillery in the
You
game.
just completely like you just agreed with me that these are unicorns, as in the fancy horse horn guys.
I'm just tired of arguing with you. Anyway, I said that these guys were all going to die because they're kind of getting encircled, but also these guys here are all tired, and these guys are just wave charging in. But my biggest point was this middle actually doesn't exist.
Oh Jesus!
Because if you think about it, the Americans can't attack the Russians. Because if they attack the Russians, then they're getting outnumbered, right? But if the Russians attack the Americans, the artillery would tear them apart.
They might win the space race.
They might. But that's still a while away, isn't it?
Well, I think the best hope for the red fellas is to wait until Christmas Day, and then they'll have the truce, you know, and they can just scurry on.
Anyway, ignoring you, I said the middle doesn't exist because all the artillery is in the way. So these guys can't push each other. It's like a immovable force versus another immovable force. However, on this side, because this is like a hyper elite core of Americans and the Russians are falling back, and there's also a gun lodged in here that is just tearing these guys apart. If the Russians attack here, they die. If the Americans attack, they win. Like, if the Americans attack, the Americans are going to win this, because this is buckenballers, which are shotgun regulars. And they've been given
have shotguns?
They do. They have buckenball, which means that they fire at the same range as regular shots, but they fire 8
Where's
instead
the
of 1.
chaps with the rocket launchers?
They don't have
Just
rocket.
start modding
Actually,
this
well,
shit.
technically, the rocket launchers are these guys back here.
Isn't artillery just like a really big rocket
This
launcher?
is genuinely a rocket launcher, and the unicorns are also basically rocket launchers, but the funny part is, Britain in this game actually have rocket launchers.
Like RPGs.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Where it's like it's like a line of sticks like that, and then they put fireworks on it, and then just...
And yet they're still lost.
They didn't bring them.
That's their fucking fault, isn't it?
They also have shrapnel artillery, which they didn't bring.
Well, you think you'd bring that?
You would think you'd bring
Whoever's
that.
playing that, I expected better from it.
Anyway, that's Mac's point.
Hello.
No.
So that was all very wise.
No. There we go. And I can never feel that Chris and Tom were France and America. And the other team, which was Jejuniewiem or Aswood, was Russia, and Valkoboy was playing as Britain. Now, you see the difference here is the enemy had slightly less men, but they did kill more. However, on the other side, Tom brought 9,200 men, so he brought 4,000 more men than the British did.
See, you don't want to bring 4,000 people less than your enemy.
Well, you'd say that, but the British, who had 4,000 less men, slaughtered the French.
That's
Because the 4,000 less men, instead of them being 4,000 more men, what they did instead was they made their units actually good, and the 9,200 men were people who were war criminals that were grabbed by the neck and given a uniform and a gun and sometimes a stick.
just makes you feel bad for the gorilla, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then Chris also brought 8,400 men against the Russians who had 7,300. Generally, if you're playing as a Russia, if you're outnumbered, you lose.
Typical.
But they did have unicorns.
Those are like cool.
Chris getting 200 kills with his natives, regulars 190. His artillery just across the board killing quite a lot of people. Anyway.
I'd have brought wyverns. That's like a dragon.
Taking this time now to say goodbye to you all. GG's. But I've made my decision as the executive of the tournament.
And I also made a decision.
Your decision is not.
So if you have
mean
anything wrong with
anything.
me, anything wrong with the decision, you can take it up with me.
Please do, actually. Anyway.
Put my Discord on the screen.
No. Anyway, bye-bye, guys. Thank you for playing.